Thank you, Mr. President and members. And I think, we've had some good discussion here today, some good debate. And I think the last exchange really leads me into one of the comments that I want to make that I think is pretty important. And I bring us back to early February when in committee, in Senator Miller's committee, we heard this bill. And we had a fair amount of folks come forward and testify. And one of the testifiers made some comments that stuck with me, and I want to just share some of that with you today. This was a professor from Mitchell Hamlin School of Law that gave some compelling testimony about preemption and when it is and when it isn't appropriate. And it was pretty clear through her testimony, and you can go back and review the tape, but it was pretty clear to me that she was answering the question, when is the use of preemption actually appropriate? And her message is clear. And she said, and I'll paraphrase, when a higher body properly vets a topic in its entirety and enacts a solution, that is when preemption is appropriate. And we've not done that with this bill. This bill identifies some topics at best. We've not vetted these issues. We've not talked about why it is or why it is not important for a local community to enact a higher minimum wage. We have not talked about why it is or why it isn't important for a local community to establish an earned safe and sick time ordinance. All that we've talked about is stripping away local government's ability to make their decisions. And you look at the board, it says Uniform State Labor Standards Act. What this should really say, this is the Uniform Take Away the Voice of the People Act, because that's what I see here. So when that professor spoke, this resonates with me. This is not an opportunity for preemption to take place. This is an opportunity that we should recognize at its face value. Why do local governments make the decisions and take up the things that they take up? It is because of inaction at the state level. Had we enacted the bill that's been referenced about earned safe and sick time statewide, local governments wouldn't have to take that on. But the fact of the matter is we have not. And I'm not blaming anybody for not doing that, but the fact of the matter is we have not taken that bill up, and we should not discourage local communities and local governments from having this conversation. This bill does not enact a balanced solution to each issue addressed. And again, back to the definition of when is preemption necessary. It does not do that, members. It's far too broad. Quite frankly, it's subject to litigation, and it's a highly unusual use of preemption. Highly unusual. It actually prevents in-depth local work and prohibits public access to discussion. Let's think about the committee process. How many people in your communities that don't live directly in Minneapolis or St. Paul actually have the opportunity to travel down to St. Paul at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon and offer some testimony on something that they feel incredibly passionate about? Not very many. How many of those same people actually are represented by an association that has a lobbyist that has the ability to come down and testify in front of the committee at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon? Not very many. Those people depend on their local units of governments to hear their voices, because they do have the opportunity oftentimes to go on a Monday evening or a Wednesday evening or a Thursday evening and voice their concerns in front of their city councilors, 5, 7, 9 of them, however many there are. These are people that they know. These are people that they elected. These are people that they see every day at the grocery store, as Senator Little talked about. This is an important process about local government and how important it is. And I'm particularly passionate about this because of what Duluth has done. Duluth is a city that I represent. And I don't think that anybody that signed on to this bill quite frankly, has a good understanding of what's happening in my city. And that's what's frustrating to me. In July of 2016, the Duluth City Council passed a resolution to create a task force that would research earned safe and sick time. What they didn't want to do is cookie-cutter approach. They didn't want to take what other communities had already done. They wanted to look at it from our own community perspective, and I'm very happy that they did that. But they created a process. In September of 2016, the task force members were approved by the City Council. They began their work in phases that were laid out. Since February, members, February, March, and April, there has been 9 public input sessions at locations all across my city, trying to get an understanding of what it is the community wants, what it is the community needs, with the idea of putting together a recommendation to come back to the City Council. And you can diminish that if you want. You can say, you know, that's just local city officials, but it's not. The makeup of the task force, 2 citizens at large, 2 business community representatives, labor organization, hospitality industry, health professional, economic development professional, human resources professional, a representative of an organization assisting working families, a domestic or sexual violence advocacy professional. These are the people that are doing the work. These are the people that are hearing the voices of the community all across Duluth. We don't have the opportunity to do that here. We don't have the time to do that here. Members, this is a bad bill for a number of different reasons. But if you take nothing else away from the comments that I made, I will bring you back to the very reason that the professor from the Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law said, when is the use of preemption appropriate? It is when a higher body has properly vetted a topic and introduced a reasonable statewide solution. That has not happened here.